got my socks fitted. You know how I roll.
This is how we roll.
I got my shoes high and my jeans low. I got my socks fitted. You know how I roll.
This is how we roll.
Homicidal clothes cause I'm dressed to kill. Leave 6 bitches oohing cause I'm worth a mill. Flow is ill, spitting no vomit spill. Killing them softly but I ain't Lauren. What is up, my peoples? We are back. We are better than ever. Welcome back, everyone, to the Townie Sports Podcast. I am one of your 2 hosts, Sami, alongside, as always, Vic. Vic, how you doing, bro?
I'm living the dream. Sami, how you doing over there?
Doing good, man. It's been a little bit. Took a little bit of time off, a little bit of lull in sports, a little bit. Didn't want to just chat about baseball the whole entire time, even though I'd love to. It just gets kind of old, but I figured, take a week off, come back, start previewing some NFL, give everybody their weekly fix, and then obviously touch on what just happened with the Mlb Trade Deadline and all that. But yeah, other than that, I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, good to be back. Like you said, nice needed refresher, I think, where we could kind of relax, recharge our batteries after. I mean, honestly, we were still shook after that Celtics finals loss, even though we did a couple shows after. It never really felt the same for me. I always felt just a slight bit out of it. I think I finally gotten over that hump. I feel a little bit better about myself now. I'm watching what I eat. I'm drinking more beer, but it is what it is.
It is. So anyway, we have a jam-packed show for you guys. We're going to touch on first, we're going to get into the Mlp Trade Deadline. And since we had given it about a week or two to kind of simmer, it's been about a week, I think. We've given about a week to simmer in. We can kind of touch on who was hitting. I know it's still very, very early to really say who's been a bust. But at least we can see some early signs. Then we're going to get right into the NFL, man. We're going to preview first the AFC East. Obviously, that's near and dear to our hearts. So we can touch on the Bills and then obviously the Patriots, Dolphins, Jets, touch on all those teams and kind of what they did in the offseason, how they look for the upcoming season. And then if you're up for it, we'll come back next week and we'll do the rest of the AFC. Then the following week we'll do maybe half of the NFC or Bucks. We'll do the NFC South first, and then the week after we can then do the rest of the NFC. So that kind of touches on all our kind of our heart, but then also kind of caters to everybody else. And kind of how I want to structure it today, Vic. I mean, we can do it either way. Like we can do either, we'll get into MLB first, touch on all those trades and stuff, let you sound off on the Red Sox and, let me kind of chip in a little bit here and there with the Red Sox. But with the NFL, I wanted to go in, we talk about the AFC East, each of the individual teams, and then how we can either structure it is either do it like we talk straight into, okay, who are those fantasy football implications for each team as we go through it, or we can do a separate segment where it's just the fantasy football. But I think I like where we talk about the Bills, what they did, and then we give some of our studs, sleepers, and all that stuff. What do you think about that?
No, you're running the show here. I'm just kind of riding along. So,
okay, I'll guide you that way.
As I try and fix my lighting, I feel like the lighting on me is a little bit off, so I'm trying to fix that while you're talking. But I'm with it, Tammy. Whichever way you want to do it. If you want to go, I like the way that you're talking about, where we go team, and then fantasy sleeper for that team. Which I have a fantasy sleeper for each team, and I have a fantasy stud because I saw your outline earlier today. So I made sure I got myself a sleeper and stud for each team in the AFC East.
Perfect.
Love talking fantasy football. There's nothing more, or I believe that there's nothing more exciting as a podcast listener or as a video podcast listener, whatever you want to call this. Nothing more exciting than hearing about the hosts' fantasy team. So I'm excited to talk about my own fantasy team and how I got Jameson Williams in the second round of a dynasty draft, rookie draft this year. But I don't want to get off on too many tangents. I know we already started a little long, but I'll let you go ahead. Let's start off. Let's start some MLB Trade Deadline.
All right. So MLB Trade Deadline. So this is not in any particular order. This is probably more in flash order, right? Like what was the big fireworks? And obviously the biggest fireworks from this MLB Trade Deadline is literally my favorite player, Juan Soto, gets traded from the Nationals. Thank God for him, right? Free Juan Soto. Traded to the San Diego Padres for a truckload of prospects. So San Diego sends over Luke Voigt, kind of a throwaway, but Mackenzie Gore, C.J. Abrams, Robert Hassel, James Wood, and Harleen Susana. So pretty much right off the bat, you're looking at this perspective of Mackenzie Gore and C.J. Abrams, right? Huge players, huge prospects, big-time potential studs in the Padres organization. And they said, screw it. And they sent them right over for arguably one of the premier, otherworldly outfield talents in baseball. Vic, when you saw this news, what was your initial inclination with this? Were you surprised? Were you like whatever about it?
Of course I was surprised, right? I mean, it's probably one of the biggest names in baseball to be traded at the trade deadline since Chris Sale maybe. And I will bring up that trade later. But I mean, at the time, Chris Sale was a 27, 28-year-old pitcher in the prime of his career. And this is an even younger hitter. I believe Soto is 23, 24? 23 years old, not even in his prime yet, and already arguably the best or one of the best hitters in baseball. Plays the field well enough where he's not a detriment and does not have to be DH'd every day.
Right.
He's worth every asset that the Padres gave up, even though I think they haven't won a game since the trade. Is that correct?
They haven't, right. Well, they did have, yeah, it's because they had a 3-game set. I think they won one game, but no, I think since the trade on, they had the 4-game set with Los Angeles. So, yeah, they lost all those games.
Yeah, so, talk about going all in and missing, Yankees, way to go with Benintendi. This isn't going to pay off in the long run. This is a smart deal for the Padres. Yes, you're giving up a ton of prospects, including several top 10 MLB prospects, over several years. I believe
2 guys were called up this year.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest prospect that they got right now was probably the biggest prospect that they gave up was probably C.J. Abrams in terms of MLB readiness. He was the guy that came up this year, was ready to play this year. I believe he was playing short for them.
Yeah,
but could play. Yeah, right. But he was eventually going to be moved when Tatis came back, I think. But now, Washington has to kind of lick their wounds. They have to take for the second year in a row, really. I mean, they gave up Trey Turner and Max Scherzer last year, got a haul of prospects who haven't really panned out yet, and actually haven't been great, I'll be honest. But I think this haul is a lot better, and I think it's going to be a win-win for both teams in the long run.
Yeah, I do too. I think this is, San Diego, that you look at one perspective, they gave up the farm for Juan Soto, but Juan Soto's young enough that it's like you're getting essentially almost like a farm system player back, right? Like he's young enough. He's not like a 28-year-old where you're looking at, okay, this is his prime in these 2 years. No, you got about 10 years potentially, right? And I think that's the biggest key here is he's under control, right? I think for the next 2 years, but is he going to stay with San Diego? And by the looks of it, I'm excited for them as an organization, right? And I think it's more of excited envy, right? Because I wish we were in this position as Red Sox fans, right? I don't care if we don't win, but the fact that we're making these big splashes to try and win, right? Like they're trying to win for the fans. They're doing things for this organization. Because I mean, even earlier in that day, I think, or 2 days earlier, they made the trade for Josh Hader. So they were addressing all their needs, got their bullpen solidified with a closer. Went out, made a big splash, addressed their first base need as well by getting Josh Bell in the same exact deal. So they got Josh Bell, arguably, really solid first baseman, had a pretty good year. Then they
probably the first baseman to move at the trade deadline, I think.
Yeah, I think so. One of the two. Yeah, I mean, I guess Hosmer, but they
I
gave
don't
up
think
Hosmer.
I don't think Hosmer's better than.
No, I don't either. Not at this current point.
No.
But I think it's a good move for the organization, especially in the current climate of the way the MLB is, where you want that star talent, you want that star power, you want to put butts in the seats at the same time as you want to make an attempt to win a World Series. I think it's going to be important to see, can they secure Juan Soto long term? Can they give him an enticing deal. And based on his first rejection, I mean, we don't know what his rejection was for, right? I mean, I don't think it was because it was a $440 million deal. I think it was because he didn't want to be stuck with Washington for 10 years more than anything. But I think if San Diego gives him that comparable deal, I think he's more inclined to stay, especially with Tatis there, Manny Machado there. It's a pretty solid. It's a pretty solid lineup there.
Yeah, and he is a free agent, 2025, arbitration eligible in 2023, so he will have arbitration next year, which is probably where they're going to lock him up long term.
Yep.
And if you look at, I mean, this is a guy that's been in the majors since he was 19 years old, so he's has over 5 years of MLB experience already, and he's only 23. If you look at his numbers,
mistaken, he won a World Series, didn't he?
I think he won one. Did Washington? This is news to me. Did Washington win a World Series?
Yeah.
It must have been okay. So
2019. Yep, he won.
Yeah, so 2019. So it's a World Series champion apparently.
Yeah.
But when I'm looking at his base on balls percentage is steadily like around 20% for the past 3 years. His K percentage has gone down every year since he's been in the, which is huge. Although his batting average isn't where it normally has been the past 2 years, I think that's more of his injury
and his team.
Exactly. So
he's still got 22 home runs. His on-base percentage is still at a high clip.
On-base percentage still at 410, slugging percentage at 43. So slugging's a little bit down than normally is, but that's fine.
I think because in Washington he was swinging for the fences. I think they were touching on that on like one of the podcasts I was listening to, and they were saying like his fly ball rate is crazy high because I think he was just trying to jack bombs.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at it, Sammy, so his on base percentage is still at 410, and his K percentage is still the least or the lowest it has been of his career. So it's not like he's swinging and whiffing, right? He's making contact. So that's what you like to see from, especially from a young hitter. I look forward to what Soto does in the future. Me and you both said that we should have given up the farm for Soto. Even if that meant, taking on Xander, Devers, and Soto long term. But if the San Diego Padres have the money to land Machado, Tatis, and Soto, why don't we have the money to land Soto, Bogarts, and Devers? So
yeah. I agree with you, Nick. And I was looking at this, right, and based on everything I was listening to, everything I was reading, it just seems like prospects are becoming this new form of currency with the way the MLB climate is and all these contracts, right? All these rich, crazy contracts for one player, locking him down long term. In order for you to even make an attempt to get a player like that, unless he's in your farm system, you're looking at stacking prospects and then trying to make a move for a player like that. Are you seeing that like more recently than ever?
Yeah, well, especially from these West Coast teams, right? So and when they're made available, it happens, right? So like we said last year, Trey Turner and Max Scherzer. This year with Juan Soto and even Josh Hader to some extent,
right?
I don't know that it's a trend, Sammy, that's happening, or that this is something that's always happened. Because if you remember, the Red Sox did it, and I hate to bring up the Chris Sale trade, but this is just what I know best is the Red Sox, right? So the Red Sox gave up 2 highly touted prospects for Chris Sale and a few others, if I'm not mistaken. Some people will say it panned out. Some people will say it didn't work out, and that's what we'll discuss later. But I don't know that it's a trend, Sammy, rather than it's something that's always happened, and maybe we just haven't noticed it because it hasn't been huge names like Juan Soto. I mean, Juan Soto is legitimately the biggest name to move in a very, very long time.
Very long time, right. And then you just look at the situation. It's one of those weird situations where he's on a team that's so bad all around him that it was just a move he wanted to make for himself. Can't really blame him, honestly. I mean, you can see it wasn't necessarily about the money.
The only thing crazier than Soto going would have been Ohtani going.
Right. Or Trout. Trout.
Or Trout. But, I mean, even with Trout's injury news now, I mean, where he's going to be managing pain for pretty much the rest of his career. So
At least his show
and
card
that's
is
just
cheap
terrible.
now.
Yeah, that's crazy. Can you believe that? And Mike, if you're watching, I did end up getting that Leeds jersey. I did buy it. Hopefully, it's here soon. But no, I can't believe that they were even floating Ohtani. But it's just crazy. I don't know what's happening in baseball right now. You used to be able to keep a guy for several years. Baseball was like the outlier sport where, guys didn't really swap teams as much other than like at the trade deadline. But the big guys, they usually stuck around for a while, right?
Right.
And now you're seeing, Aaron Judge might be gone this offseason from the Yankees. That would be unheard of years ago. You know what I mean? So I think player movement and has finally reached baseball is what I'm trying to say.
Makes sense. That's a good point. So in other trade news, the New York Yankees, unfortunately, traded for Andrew Benintendi and Frankie Montes. In my opinion, it pains me to say, it hurts me to say, but honestly, at this point, screw the Red Sox, fuck them. These were great moves for New York. They brought a lot of attention to, holes that they needed to address. So they needed to address that outfield. They needed to address that batting average a little bit. They weren't getting a lot there. Prior to the trade, granted, he hasn't been good since he's been in the Bronx, but prior to the trade, you're looking at Andrew Benintendi was 320 batting average, 785 OPS, and he wasn't even hitting for tremendous power like what we were trying to do to him, like the Red Sox were trying to turn him into this, tank monster that hits bombs. He's stuck with what he's good at, and this year, granted, thankfully he made the All-Star game, worked his butt off, and now he has a chance to, make a run in the playoffs. Then they also got Frankie Montes on the other side, really solid middle of the staff guy, a guy that I really wanted for the Red Sox. I think I was on this podcast saying that the Red Sox need to make a push for Frankie Montes, and this was months ago. This was, I think, even in like June, July when the Red Sox were, on a rise. I was like, the Red Sox need to make that push for Frankie Montes to add to that lineup, and he's also another guy that could be under control. They're both having slow starts, though. Frankie Montes, I think, gave up 6 runs in his first outing. And I think Benintendi's batting like 120 or 170 right now. But slow, it's quick, quick turnaround. So we'll see how it works. But, this just goes to show you, like, and this is the other side of the coin, right? We're Red Sox fans, and we're looking at this out from the outside looking in, and we're like, wow, this is another organization that we hate, but they're willing to buy in and stack the roster with talent that's available to them. And they took that chance, and they're taking that chance. This is a situation that the Red Sox were in last season, and we didn't take a chance like that, right? Like, we went and got Schwarber, who was injured for 4 weeks, and we got him for pennies on the dollar because he was injured. We didn't make a splash for a big arm. We didn't make, or at least a middle-of-the-road arm. We went and got Hansel Robles, who was pretty much about to be cut, I think, by the Angels. So, this just goes to show you it sucks when you're on the outside looking in. You're seeing the Padres do stuff like this. You're seeing the Yankees do things like this. And you're like, well, why can't we do anything? Want to give a quick shout out real quick to TK. Congratulations, TK, on the soon-to-be dad, soon-to-be mom, Laura, as well. We love you guys. But yeah, Vic, what did you want to say about that?
Just don't name your kid after any Red Sox players.
Yeah, name him Benintendi. Name him Benny.
Yeah,
Mookie.
Benny.
No, Mookie. Screw it.
Mookie. Poppy. Manny's great. Pedro. Go classic. Jason, if you're feeling extra classic. Even Dustin.
Yes.
But I fucking hate this team, dude. I hate the Red Sox right now.
We're on the Yankees first. We're gonna get to the Red Sox. We're on the Yankees right now.
I don't want to talk about the Yankees. Just to catch up on the chat here, Mike asks Giants or Padres tonight. Mike, if are we talking spread or are we talking straight up? Because straight up, I think the Padres do get off the schneid tonight and end up getting their first win with Juan Soto in the lineup. So just straight up. Now, if you're asking me against the spread, I'm looking real quick at that spread, and it looks like that the game is at Petco Park. So that's another bonus there, right? And the spread right now
Who's the starter? Who are the probable starters?
So we got starters. Sorry to derail the podcast, but
No, it's
you
a good question.
got to give the people what they want, right? We got Alex Cobb versus Joe Musgrove. Musgrove's been having a great season, 3.08 ERA, 1.03 WHIP. So
Taking
Cobb's been
Musgrove,
fine
yeah.
as well. I like the Padres at home. Again, Mike, I don't know what the spread is. Oh, okay, got the line here. So the line's 1.5 Padres. I like the Padres by 2, Mike.
Yeah,
At least 2, yeah.
same.
All right. Back to the Yankees. So, Sammy, on these moves that the Yankees made here, yeah, of course. When you have the opportunity to get a hitter that's hitting 307 with a 382 on base percentage and a 2.2 WAR, who plays the field well and doesn't strike out a lot, his K percentage this year is 13.8%, much lower than the guys he's replacing. But the Yankees have really struck gold on their other players. If you look at Matt Carpenter, a guy that they legit. What's that?
I said, dude, I know.
Oh my God! If you look at Matt Carpenter, a guy that literally they just took off the scrap heap, he's having a hell of a season. And I know that a lot of their team has hit like a real spell right now. But I mean, Matt Carpenter is hitting 305 right now with a 412 on base percentage. The guy honestly could have been an all-star. But what Benny does that the rest of their team doesn't do is not strike out a lot, and that's what they needed in their lineup, is a guy that would make contact, get on base, and I think he really strengthens that lineup even better than it already is. And honestly, it's probably one of the scariest lineups in baseball as is, and the pitching hasn't been too terrible itself. I think that the move. The move that they made for your guy, what's his name? Montes is going to end up paying off in the long run. I know he had a tough first outing, second outing not so great. So I think it's going to turn out fine for them, and I think they're going to be all right. Yeah. I have them as my second team in the ALCS. I still like the Astros to win the AL.
Perfect segue. The Astros trade for both Christian Vasquez and Trey Mancini. So again, another organization quickly jumping in, diving in, answering the holes that they had. They had a crazy major hole at first base. Gurriel just wasn't performing up to snuff. So they traded for Trey Mancini, solidified that first base. He's also another guy that can play the field pretty well, and you can platoon him in right field if you'd like as well. So he kind of gives them a lot of flexibility there. They also needed catching help. Who doesn't? And honestly, it pains me to say this. Like I love Christian Vasquez. I really wish we could have kept him. Like, that's my preface, right? I loved him. I wish we could have kept him. I'm not too upset about the trade. I'm upset that we didn't get more from it. I think we could have got more from it because we had the leverage in that situation. I'm not a big catcher guy, right? Like I've never been that way. I'm not a big catcher guy. You look at a situation, if you have a catcher that bats 250, gets you maybe 50 RBIs, like that's what you need. I mean, we had Christian Vasquez way overperforming any of those metrics. He's batting, I think, like 270 or 280, just playing really, really good ball. And we were able to, flip him for something. I think we got the 11th prospect in the Astros organization or something like that for him. It's like, that's like, I know, but I was just like, we could have got definitely more. But I mean, again, it's a catcher position. Everybody needs one, and you don't really hit on one. So we could have gotten a little more for it. But yeah.
Yeah, we could have. And it's not like the Red Sox have a catcher in our farm system that is projected to be an everyday starter.
Right.
We don't have a catcher anywhere. What are we doing? What are the Red Sox doing?
We're getting there. We're getting there.
It doesn't make any sense. Okay, I'm done with. I think good trade for the Astros. Congrats.
Good, yeah. Good for them. Trey Mancini, just to mention, has 3 home runs in 6 games since the trade. Absolutely mashing. So good for him, man. Good for him. Staying on the West Coast, the Mariners, America's team. As I mentioned it preseason, if you guys were watching, you would have known that I said you need to watch the Seattle Mariners this year. They're going to be a super fun team to watch. That's my team right now. I'm going to keep watching them. Obviously, I'm keeping my eye on Juan Soto, but the Seattle Mariners traded for Luis Castillo. So pretty much a really bold move. That's another big name that moved at the trade deadline. A huge arm. An arm, again, we're going to get to it, Vic. An arm the Red Sox should have been in on. Just saying. We are a big organization. We should be in on these big arms that are going to move. As I mentioned in preseason, this is an exciting team to watch, a fun team to watch. They're full of young, exciting talent, as a lot of you probably saw during the home run derby. You got Julio Rodriguez leading the charge on that team. He's an absolute stud. But yeah, Luis Castillo, almost a bona fide number 1, number 2 starting pitcher. Going into the Mariners, he has a 2.86 ERA, a 1.071 whip, and a 9.5 Ks per 9. So this guy's a bona fide stud that the Mariners just added to their lineup. So yeah, good for the Mariners. I hope they are in the ALCS because that'll be really exciting and really fun. Anyway, the final team, the Red Sox, trade for Eric Hosmer and kind of trade for Tommy Pham. Woohoo. I'll let you take the reins here, Vic, and then I'll follow you.
Kyle Bloom deserves to be bukkakied, sprayed down with my sperm. He has been awful. I mean, you know how I feel about Dombrowski, but that's how I feel about Kyle Bloom. He's terrible. He might be literally the worst GM in the history of Red Sox. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Why are we trading all these guys for prospects? This guy's a prospect hoarder. He needs to be on the show Hoarders. He loves prospects. And guess what? None of them pan out. These prospects he's traded for have been terrible. Jeter Downs, great job, buddy. I mean, literally, I can't think. I mean, I understand Jeter Downs is 22. He's still terrible. He went from being our top prospect in our farm system to like the 10th. All right. I mean, what are we doing here? What are we doing? The Red Sox. Let's look at our starting pitcher tonight, right? Rich Hill, 42 years old, 4.52 ERA, got shelled for 4 runs in the first 3 innings, right, against the Braves. Gave up, I think, 3 home runs. Gave up a double. I mean, this is just an unserious team. I don't understand what we're doing. Kyle Bloom at the top has to look in the mirror and say, what are we doing? Why have I not traded for a starter in 2 years? Or he has traded for a starter, and they're all injury-prone guys that don't work out. What are we doing? The only starter that was a good sign this year was Michael Wacha, who, guess what? Big surprise, is injured on the 15-day IL. What are we doing? Why are we here? I feel like Taylor Twellman right now. What are we doing? We have no vision. There's no vision for the future, right? What are we doing why are we playing with Bogarts and Devers right now? These guys should have been signing long-term deals years ago. It's just I don't know, Sammy. It's a train wreck, and it all stems from the top. Our general manager, Kyle Bloom.
Now, do you think this is an issue of mitigating salary, or like what in your mind? What do you think is this problem with the Red Sox right now? Like, why they aren't making splashes? Are we really going in the direction of trying to be like the Tampa Bay Rays with a low salary?
Yes, that's what it seems like. That's exactly it seems like that's what he got from ownership, and that's why ownership hired him, right? To bring him on and be like, okay, you know what? Tear this thing down, save us money. We care more about Liverpool and LeBron than we do about the Red Sox.
Hot take, I love it.
It's not a hot take. I mean, that's what it is. They don't care about the Red Sox. They don't.
Yeah. I mean, that's a fair assessment. The only good thing that came out of this trade for Eric Hosmer was the fact that the San Diego Padres are footing 90% of the bill. And that's kind of a slap in the face too, as a Red Sox fan. It's like, so we had to give up, like, I mean, granted, Jay Groom was probably leaving anyway because he wasn't going to be able to make the 40-man. I think he was up for that draft, for the Rule 5 draft this season. So he would have been gone anyway.
He was a first-round pick, by the way.
I know.
He was a first-round pick, by the way.
Yeah.
Didn't
pan out.
No, and nothing. He didn't pan out, Sammy. I mean, he was, 23, 24? I mean, why are we getting rid of starting pitching prospects for Eric. I get it. It's a great deal for Hosmer, but I feel like Kyle Bloom doesn't know how leverage works and doesn't know how to make trades. I mean, he's literally. I mean, what is he doing? These trades don't make any sense. He's just overvaluing these guys. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. You're coming from. I'm coming from a point of like I tried to be as positive as I could and optimistic as I could about this Red Sox team, and I'm at a point now where it's just like I don't have anything. I've got nothing. I get all the text messages all the time. Hey, are the Red Sox still good because of last year? And I'm like, nope, they're not. They're really not.
And it's not that. And it's a lot of the guys too. It's a lot of the guys that don't give a shit, right? I mean, you have really honestly, I just can't stand Durant. I can't stand that guy at all. I hate that he's in our lineup. He obviously doesn't care. He's a horrendous fielder. I mean, routine fly balls are dropping by right next to him, like left and right. He's just an unserious player. I just coming from a team that used to have Big Papi, Dustin Pedroia, Kevin Youkilis, these guys that would play hard every night and just lay it out on the line always. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Papi would trot to first base every time, and hold the bat. But I knew in the background Papi was putting in 40 hours the next day in BP, to try and get better. This guy Duran, I mean, get him out of there. He sucks.
That's awesome. Man, I got Vic, you got me speechless, dude. Like I have nothing. I have no rebuttal to that because I think TK said it best. Like it's really hard to argue with that. Like everything you just mentioned, it's really there's nothing. I have nothing to argue with it. And then we get the news today, right? So you and I are preparing for this show, and we're preparing for this big blow up fest. And the funniest thing happened today where TK sends that message, and he goes, Vic, you were right. And then he sends the link of Chris Sale falling off his bike and breaking his hand. Sound off on Chris Sale, Vic.
Well, hold on. So I have the Red Sox game in the background here. Fucking Verdugo has an orange belt on. He's got 16 chains on and an orange belt. Like, dude, can you hit above 300 maybe for a season? I mean, come on, fucking idiot. But yeah, I mean, the Sale thing is just another unserious player, right? A guy that really should be rehabbing, right? Because he is, our quote unquote ace, right? And very important to the team, who we paid a lot of money to. Honestly, money that could have went to Mookie Betts, money that could have went to Andrew Benintendi. We gave up all that money to him, right? And what's he doing? While he's supposed to be rehabbing, he's riding a bicycle and falling off.
Apparently, he was over at Cleveland Circle at Boston College.
I mean, what are you doing, dude? Like, you're so unserious. Like, just stop. Yeah. Like, you're injury prone. You should be sitting in a fucking bubble rehabbing your hand.
Yeah.
And TK, I don't want to hear it with the chains thing, okay? That's just like the Colin Coward thing with the backwards hat thing, right? He's not a serious ball player. Like, do you really think that Verdugo after tonight is going to go home, watch like 15, watch the replay of the game tonight and say, oh, this is where I could have gotten better. This is where I could have gotten better. No, dude. So go home. He's going to hang out. He's going to play Fall Guys. He's going to drink a beer. Have some. What was it? What was it that John Lackey would do? He'd have like a Bud Light in the clubhouse.
Yeah, with chicken wings.
I'm getting that vibe again from this team. This is a non-professional team. There's two professional players on this team, and maybe Tommy Pham.
He hustles, dude.
Bogart.
Tommy Pham hustles for every play. I actually really like him.
He does, and he cares. And obviously, we've seen he cares about fantasy football. But if he gives baseball that same energy, I'm sure he's a monster. But JD Martinez too. I mean, Story, unfortunately, he's had a lot of injuries this season, so not much to say there.
But again, that's to your point where we went and we made a big splash for a guy like Trevor Story, who again is somewhat of an injury risk type player. Whereas you could have put it in a situation where, let's say you go out and before the Story news came out, let's say you signed Iglesias, right? Because he had a great end of the season last year, but then you throw money at Kevin Gausman. right? Would we be in the same
Yeah.
situation?
Right.
Because you look at a guy like Jose Iglesias right now, who's batting 300. Granted, he has pretty much an empty batting average, but he's on base, right? And that's opportunities to score runs. And then if you're on the other side, you have a pitcher that doesn't give up runs. Well, you could potentially be in a much different road. That's maybe 3 or 4 games up or down. And how much are we out? We're out about 5 games. And if you're that close, you make another move or push for somebody else. That's $25 million we gave to one guy that potentially we could have gave to 2. So.
Well, and not only that, we also could have gave that money to Bogarts and Rafi.
Right.
And knowing that we have a guy like Marcelo Meyer coming up the pipe, who 2 and 3 years can move over to that second base spot.
Right.
We don't really need, and you're not spending, $25 million on Trevor Story. And not only that, but like there's Alek Manoah was another one that was out there. I mean, several free agent pitchers that were out there this year that the Red Sox just chose not to go with. And you see the difference, right, between the 2 different ownerships in Boston. And if you thought you were going to do a podcast and not talk about the Celtics, you were wrong, because here we go. You look at how serious that the Boston Celtics ownership is right now, and Wick, he's going after it. He doesn't give a shit. He's like, go win us a championship, Brad. And that's what he's doing. And Brad's putting the pieces together. And then you look at LeBron and this, cookie cutter Fenway Sports Agency ownership group led by John Henry. And these guys are just cheapskates. And all they care about is just getting more franchises for some reason. Like they're playing freaking Monopoly. These guys do not care about this team like we do, right? They're not from the Mass area, right? John Henry, I believe, grew up a Cleveland Guardians fan. So, get out of here with this nonsense. Sell the team. Sell the team if you're going to be penny pinchers. For real, because this is the Boston Red Sox, one of the most storied franchises in Major League Baseball. And it means a lot to us. I know as fans. I mean, it's part of our culture in our city, in Boston. We care about the Red Sox, and it just doesn't feel like the ownership reflects the city, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I think you're on point with all of that. Now, one last thing I want to add is, for the ownership, it reflects bad on them with the situations that they're putting this team into, because you look at the overall watchability of this team, and you're even losing the people that are loyal to the Red Sox, right? We're the guys that are going to watch the team no matter, what their record is, but it doesn't mean we're going to go out there and want to spend $80 on a ticket, $100 on a ticket to go to the Red Sox and watch these minor leaguers on the team. You know what I mean? It shows, especially when they have opportunities to make the team better. I think that's the key here. You have opportunities to make the team better, but you choose not to. And you try to go the cheap way out. You try to hit on these guys, and it's like, no, that's not really working right now. Like, that's not what this team needs. And it's really affecting the watchability, and you're seeing it on all the ratings. You're seeing even on, I guess, on the Nesson ratings, they've been going down. You're seeing ticket sales are starting to decline because nobody wants to go and watch these guys, right? And then you look at the other you look at the other side of it. It's okay. Maybe they want to go and watch Devers and Bogarts, but then it's like, well, why am I going to get in? Why am I going to get involved and get so committed to that, and not knowing if these guys are even going to be here next season, right? Like, you don't even know if they're going to be there. So
I honestly think if they don't sign Devers and Bogarts and they let them both walk, I think there will be a riot in the city. I think there will be a riot, and I think that there will be a boycott, which there should be of the Red Sox team.
Absolutely.
And that's all. Honestly, Sam, I don't want to talk about it anymore because it just gets me I get so fired up about it. It just makes me so upset. Can we pivot to an organization that is run well?
Yeah. Let's pivot to the NFL. Okay, let's pivot to the pigskin. This is what everybody's been waiting for. This is what everybody's been waiting all, spring and summer for. I know a lot of people were sick of us talking about the Celtics and basketball and the 2008 Celtics. Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. But here we are. We're back. Yeah, they did. So we're back. So we're gonna start it off with the AFC East. So we're going to go in alphabetical order, so not really record order or anything like that. We're going to go in alphabetical order, and I was told to wave my hands when we're talking about football for Kurt, so Kurt can come back. But all right, we're going to start with the AFC East. We got the Buffalo Bills, so some key additions for the Buffalo Bills: Jameson Crowder, O.J. Howard. I think there were a couple other guys that really didn't really matter as much. Key departure. Oh. We get a text message. They want a plant segment. We should bring Scott on and talk plants next time. Key departures.
I was just about to tell Scott. I think we need to bring him on and talk plants.
I'm 100% down. Key departures. Cole
Okay,
Beasley.
Next episode, Scott.
Huh?
I said next episode, Scott.
For sure. Key departures. Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders. So the Buffalo Bills kind of mitigated some of the losses in Cole Beasley and Sanders by bringing in Jameson Crowder, I think. I think he feels that, that wide receiver 2/3 role slot guy that actually has really, really good hands. I think I was looking up. He's got like a 67% catch rate. Veteran presence, of course. I think he's 4 or 5 years in the league now. Obviously been kind of a slight journeyman. Started with Washington, went to New York, and then now in Buffalo. This is. I didn't think they answered much of the woes on the run defense, but I don't think that's a big factor for them. I think they just need a little bit more consistent defense play overall, and I think they stuck kind of with their guns with that team overall. I mean, pretty solid team last year, the Buffalo Bills. I really don't know what else to say here. I mean, the over-under is 11.5. I'm taking the over there. This is another situation where I think they can probably win 12, 13 games again. What do you think, Vic?
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you, Sammy, when you say this is not one really that I have a lot to talk about. They made a lot of solid moves. It's funny you mentioned Jameson Crowder filling that role. I actually think the guy on the roster is already going to fill a role, in Gabe Davis being that second wideout. Obviously, I watched him a lot at UCF, and I think he can fill that role. I know a lot of people have him on the same trajectory as a Chris Godwin in Tampa, so I think he can be that type of receiver eventually. This is a team that was third in the league in points scored, first in the league in points allowed. According to Pro Football Focus, their 2021 team grades 9th overall, 12th offense, and tied for the 7th defense. I think this is a team that's improved and will definitely make the playoffs. Did we do over-unders yet? Did you do an over-under yet?
I did 11.5, and I took the over.
I'm going to take the over here. I think that's a safe play here, is take the over. I think that they can finish with 12 wins this season.
Yeah, same. So Buffalo Bills, some fantasy tips, or as I call them, fantasy tidbits on the Buffalo Bills. So obviously you're going with your traditional studs, right? With the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. So if you have the opportunity to get those guys, those are guys you want to get pretty early. Some sleepers for me. You touched on one. I'll let you cook on him when he gets there. I was actually on the other side of the coin. I actually really like Jameson Crowder. I think he has really great hands. Will he get the opportunity? I'm not sure, but I think once he does get the opportunity, I think he'll take it and he won't lose it. Like I mentioned before, 67% average catch percentage, and that's been on awful teams, like god-awful teams. So for somebody to have that 60 to 75% catch percentage is really good, especially on a bad team. And then my deep sleeper is James Cook. I believe he's the younger brother to Dalvin Cook, and he's faster than Dalvin Cook. So he's kind of a deep sleeper if you could take him kind of late, young guy, rookie. And he might be able to take touches because we all know that Buffalo Bills' weak point is the run game. They have this carousel, but I think if James Cook impresses, I think he'll take that role because I think he can also catch the ball pretty well. So that's going to be really important for them.
Yeah. So when I thought of studs, I thought of the one guy on this team that I would want on my fantasy team. If I could choose only one, who is the one guy I would take? And for me, it's going to be Josh Allen, and it's not even really close. That's the one guy on this team I'd want as my quarterback. Now everybody knows it. Everybody here that's watching it or in my fantasy league knows that I like Josh Allen. As my sleeper here, I don't know if he's much of a sleeper anymore, but Gabe Davis, obviously, as I said before, I'm high on the guy. And I didn't do a deep sleeper, but I like James Cook. And just to go back, as I was talking shit about Duran, he did end up hitting another home run. The Red Sox now lead Atlanta 5-4 in the bottom of the fifth. So, yeah.
Just when you think you're done with them, they bring you right back in,
Amen.
All right, so that's all you got
Kurt
for
likes
Buffalo
Knox.
Bills.
Kurt likes Dawson Knox.
Dawson Knox. Yeah, if you want to draft a tight end, go right ahead.
I
What do you think
actually
about
like
that,
Howard
Dawson
better.
Knox?
I think Howard has the better season than Knox.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think with the way that offense is structured, I think it caters more to OJ Howard's strengths than Dawson Knox's. Just because you need a little more speed, you gotta spread the field a little bit more. All right, so the second team on the docket, the kind of on paper exciting Miami Dolphins. So key additions. It's a
Heard this before.
pretty big list here. Tyreek Hill, Teron Armstead, so they answered some offensive line help. Chase Edmonds. Listen to this running back situation they got now. Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, Sony Michel. Plus, I think they still have like one or two guys on their roster from last year.
Yeah, they still have Gaskin.
Yeah.
They still have Gaskin.
Yeah, so key departures, Devante Parker and Will Fuller. So it looks like they're doing a switching of the guard at their wide receiver position overall. I think this team has a really funny running back situation. It seems like a decent option for them, or it's a decent option for them as they're kind of like looking at like, okay, we got a bunch of pretty good running backs. Let's see who hits, right? So they're taking three different options and seeing which one is going to hit. I'm putting my bets on Chase Edmonds to take it and pretty much run with it. But I do know Raheem Mostert has a history of stealing jobs from people, but he's also more injury prone, I think, than most of the other running backs on that list. Maybe besides Sony Michel, but we all know Sony Michel can't catch the ball. So what say you about the Miami Dolphins?
I feel like they're exciting every year. Who gives a shit? They're over under. You have set at 8.5. I'm gonna go under only because I think they win 8 games. I think they're a sub 500 team. Do you think are you over on this?
I am.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm
that's
taking the
crazy.
over here. I think because I think they won 9 games last year, and I don't necessarily think the team got worse, and I don't think everybody else got that much better in this division. If anything, I think it's a trap, right? Like, and that's kind of what I wrote there too. I'm like, this is kind of a trap. This is a situation you're looking at. I think we've seen this with so many different teams before, where on paper this team looks so super crazy talented, but it's like, is Tyreek Hill just getting a bag and then just trying to perform, right? Does Tua have the arm strength and the capacity as a quarterback to feed two viable number one wide receivers in Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill? You know, and
I mean, this is the team that was 22nd overall according to PFF last year. 27th overall offense, guys. There's only 30 teams in the NFL. 6th rated defense and 17th rated special teams. I don't think they got that much better. I think they lost some people defensively that we didn't put there. I think Tua is not a lock to play 8 games this season, unfortunately. Do I think Tua is a good quarterback? I think he is decent, but I just don't think he's going to be heavy enough. Sorry, 32, Kurt. Sorry, 32 teams in the NFL. Been watching too much hoops, but yeah, I don't know. I just don't see it for them.
yeah, I think Tua's the big.
And
I
they're
think a big thing we're seeing with a lot of. I mean, I guess we're going to see a common theme with a lot of these NFL teams is how is that quarterback going to structure that team, right? Like, we know this team has a pretty solid defense overall. The D-line is probably one of the best in the league. They're questionable at linebacker. They're decent in the secondary, but not so great at cornerback. So they're really relying, and I think you look at this perspective, they're really relying on the pass rush, right? So having their own pass rush, but also outscoring teams. So they're looking at the team to make mistakes while they don't make mistakes. So
Yeah, I don't think I'm not expecting a big breakout this year.
yeah, I mean, Tua as the 25th ranked quarterback, he missed 3 games, and that was according to Pro Football Focus. So, you know, that's a tough situation to be in, and 8.5. Yeah, I'm staying away from it, but I believe in I'm still taking the over because of the ability for this team to hit. If this team hits, it's going to hit big, right? Because of the players they have.
Yeah.
But, all right, the third team,
Sure.
and probably one we'll take a little
wait,
bit
we didn't
more
do
time
fantasy.
on. Oh,
Fantasy.
fantasy. Sorry. Yeah, good call.
Fantasy.
Good call. Thanks for keeping me in check. All right, so you go first this time. I went first last time.
It's easy for me. I'm going Tyreek Hill. He has the biggest boom potential on this team. He's the one guy I'm taking. As for sleeper, again, I don't know if he's a sleeper, but I still like Myles Gaskin. I think he was a good running back last year. I know that they brought in like 15 other running backs, but he would be my running back to break out the group, in my opinion.
Yeah, for studs, I went Waddle and Tyreek Hill, and I actually am the opposite of you. I leaned more Jalen Waddle because I think it caters more to the skill set of Tua. Plus, obviously, I don't trust Tua's arm to be able to viably sustain Tyreek Hill's skill set as Pat Mahomes did. My sleeper is actually Chase Edmonds, so the other running back that you chose. So this is gonna be a fun one to see at the end.
Oh yeah, one of them is gonna pop up. One of us is gonna be right.
Yeah. And then my deeper sleeper, so somebody that's been very impressive in the Miami Dolphins camp, somebody they drafted, the wide receiver, Eric Ezukanma, the rookie out of Texas Tech. So he's looking like he's going to take that third wide receiver role. And if all goes well, he actually probably could potentially turn out to be the best wide receiver on that team, possession-wise, if you get what I'm trying to say. Wink, wink, Tua's arm is a rag arm. But, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. What up to Linder in the chat, by the way?
Oh, what's good? What up, Linder?
And Vic 3. Where that is.
What up, Vic 3?
Vic 3. That's my guy, Vic 3. All right. Sorry, Sammy. So go ahead, let it ride.
All right, so the third team we got on this list, the AFC in the AFC East, so obviously not in only in alphabetical order. We're going with the New England Patriots. So with the key additions, we got Devante Parker, Jabril Peppers, Pierre Strong, the 350% man, Taekwon Thornton, Malcolm Butler, and Terrence Mitchell. Departures, obviously, everybody knows J.C. Jackson. That killed me. Vic, I'll let you go first, and I also have a Townie takeaway for everybody that I won't get to yet, but I'll get to it later.
Super Bowl predictions will come later on, TK. This is only the AFC preview. But as far as the New England Patriots, they're 2021. This is going to surprise everybody. Team grades, according to Pro Football Focus, the New England Patriots were ranked third overall, second offense, fourth defense, 10th special teams. And this is not biased. This is according to Pro Football Focus. Now, if Bill Belichick did not have a track record of getting rid of defensive players a year before they fell off, then I would have been more upset about this J.C. Jackson trade. J.C. Jackson departure, I should say. I'm not as worried as you might think. I feel like Bill has some quarterbacks up his sleeve. I know you're worried, Sammy, but don't be. I have faith in my guy. As far as the offense is concerned, everybody saw the Mac Twitter photos. Guy is jacked. He's ready to go. I'm still not sold on him, but I hope it's this year that he puts me over the edge. I like it. I'm going with the Pats over 8.5 this season. I think the 8 is honestly. I think the 8 is disrespectful, and I know that they're going to win at least 9 games this season. They went 10-7 last year.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a fun season. I think we're looking at this season as I'm looking at this season as I did last season, whereas actually last season I got a little more serious as the season went on. I think this year we're going to have to look at the opposite, right? I think the defense right now on paper, I know you trust it, I don't. Humongous question mark. And I actually kind of agree with Vic 3. I think maybe the Patriots could potentially finish third if Miami ends up hitting on all cylinders. But who knows? I trust Bill. In Bill, I trust. I think the defense is a human question mark. Front line and the linebackers absolutely suck. The cornerbacks are questionable. They're not pretty by any means. But I have a lot of confidence that someone is landing in Bill's system that needs to be there. Devin McCourty can't cover talent gaps as much as he used to. So we'll see how this Jabril Pepper situation fits in. I think this Jabril Peppers potentially feels like a little bit of that Rodney Harrison. Like there's a lot of boom bust potential there. I mean, I know he has an injury history, but man, is he super crazy talented when he's
And
playing.
not only that, Sammy, if it's one thing that I want to like throw out there is that I know Bill can scout cornerbacks, so I'm not worried about that.
Correct. Yeah, he's more often than not he's hitting on cornerbacks or he's finding cornerbacks that fit his system pretty well, and I think that's really important. But I'm with you on the over 8.5. I think this team has a lot of fun offensive raw talent. Now, how this offense is going to be structured, I'm worried because if we structure it like we did last year, this offense is going to suck so bad. I think there's just too much talent at wideout this year. I think there's, and I'm not saying from a perspective of like Miami or, you're looking at Buffalo, but I'm saying there's a lot of raw talent. Like Taekwon Thornton is turning a lot of heads. Jacoby Myers, we know, is like all, he's trusty. He's trustworthy.
Come on.
Devante Parker is impressing in camp. I mean, we all know he's got a lot of talent. We're going to see if he actually pans out, right? Like we're seeing if he's going to be that player that everybody thought he was going to be. Maybe, Bill's magic works on some of these guys that maybe have had, history outside of football that didn't really have the focus that comes to New England and show focus. This team has a lot of youth, I think, on that offense, and I think it's going to be a fun season. That's what I'm taking it as.
I like it, Sammy. I like it. So, who are your fantasy guys?
My studs are. Can I pick two? All right, I got a stud and then a semi-stud. So my stud is Damian Harris. I think that's probably yours as well. And then my semi-stud is Jacoby Myers.
Who's your sleeper?
Devante Parker.
Okay. So my it's just gonna sound weird, but my stud is Damian Harris. My sleeper is Ramondre Stevenson.
Ooh. And then my deep sleepers for everybody out there is Taekwon Thornton. I think he's a good rookie to keep your eye on out of Baylor. Baylor pumps out a lot of really good wide receivers. And Mac Jones. And I will get to some of those stats later. The guy had 3,600. Just to preview it, a little tidbit. He had 3,600 yards passing last year. So, I'm not saying he's going to win a bajillion games, but hey, for, nice little bye week sleeper quarterback, you can go a lot worse than Mac Jones. So, nice little deep sleeper there. But all right, let's finish this off with arguably the team very few people care about. I'm not gonna say nobody, very few people care about. And I wish we had A-Rod on with us because then he could poo-poo the team and talk a little bit more about it. And that's why I didn't have as much planned for the New York Jets. I mean, there's not really much to plan. It's kind of really a hope and pray for a lot of New York Jets fans. But the New York Jets, key additions. They look fun, though. I won't even lie. Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner are the key additions, obviously mostly all through the draft. Key departures, Jameson Crowder. I think there was like one or two other players that were some departures from their team, but overall, almost the same team. We'll see what Zach Wilson has cooking. What do you got on the Jets, Vic?
I like the draft, Sammy. I like the draft a lot. I think this is a good, fun young team. They're a what I like to call a league pass team. I can, when you're watching basketball, you got yourself league pass teams. The fun young teams are a league pass team for me. I like the Jets this year. As weird as that sounds. You like
a New York team? Jeez.
I'm not a fan. I'm not like they aren't my Bengals. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But this could be a fun young team to watch. I think they could sneak out a few games. I know that their over under is 5.5. I think they got significantly better from last year. What are your thoughts on second year coach Mo Salah?
I love him.
Like him
last year. Love him this year.
Okay. I think this year is another good year. I went.
I thought they drafted really well.
I thought they drafted well too. They went 4-13 last year. What's the over under at? You have 5.5. They won 4 games last year. They really did get a lot better. Man, this is a tough one.
That might be a lock.
I don't know.
That might be a lock.
Lock over for you?
They won 4
really?
Last year. They won 4 last year. You don't think the additions that they made and they get lucky they can win 2 games? 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the AFC East could be a really good division this year. If I had to pick a lock from this division, though, my lock is Buffalo over. But I think that I like the over here, so Sam, you convinced me. I'm gonna go over for the Jets.
Yeah, and Vic 3 mentioned it
But you have
perfectly. Brees
everybody
Hall.
over in the
It's all about
division.
Brees Hall, man. Brees Hall
You have
and Zach Wilson.
how do you have everybody over in the division, though?
Well, because these numbers. I didn't like these numbers, dude.
I don't think you could do that. I don't think it works like that. Can they all?
No, but
they play
I
each
know,
other.
but I went like a little bit flip floppy on the Dolphins.
Okay. All right. So I had the under. So let's recap the division real quick. All right. Actually, let's give our fantasy guys, and then let's recap the division over unders. So go ahead.
My New York Jets fantasy stud is Brees Hall. My sleeper is Elijah Moore, and then my deep sleeper is I think Zach Wilson's gonna be a little bit better this year.
Deep sleeper. Wow. Yeah. So Brees Hall for me. Sleeper is going to be one of those guys, either Garrett Wilson or Elijah Moore. I'm just going to go Garrett Wilson because I like him. Yeah, I got the over. So to recap, the AFC East for me, I have Buffalo Bills over 11.5, Miami Dolphins under 8.5, New England Patriots over 8.5, New York Jets over 5.5.
I had all the same. I was flip floppy on the Dolphins.
I thought you said over for the Dolphins. You said under?
I said I could see the over. I could see how this team, if they hit, they could get the over. But you can recap me. I think I did say over, but I said it's a trap. I kind of want to avoid that.
Yeah, you want to push. Yeah, but there's no push here because they have that 5.5.
There's
They have that point.
Anything else you want to take away from the AFC East, Vic?
I'm just happy we're talking about football again. And next week for the are we back to weekly, or are we doing every other week?
Yeah, we can go back to weekly because we got football coming up. So
We'll have to figure it out. But we'll figure that out. You can check our Instagram at Townie Sports to find out the next show is going to be weekly or bi-weekly. But it's good to be talking football again, Sammy. I believe you have a tiny takeaway that you have been chomping at the bit for 4 weeks now, and I'll let you go ahead.
I have been chomping at the bit about this. I have been absolutely chomping at the bit about this. Everybody's going to roast me. I don't even care. I posted this on Twitter. I got absolutely demolished. I have stuff to back it up, and I have kind of, since I first made the comment, I have come a little bit back, mostly because of you, Vic. You talked me off this ledge, but I was still pretty strong on how I feel. And that's with Mac Jones. So the Patriots are in a tremendously good place right now, a place that as Patriots fans we are not used to, right? Like having Tom Brady for all that amount of time. We're so shortly behind Tom Brady that we have this other quarterback that can not do exactly the same, but we're still in a pretty good place with a young quarterback that looks efficient. And I think that's really important here. That's key, really efficient. I'm not in any way, shape, or form, I'm prefacing this, I'm not saying Mac Jones is a top 10 QB right now. That wasn't my comment, and that wasn't my comment that I made to anyone. I said, however, based on the vision, the potential, the rarity, and the value of the position and how the position requires a combination of both decision-making, leadership, poise, skill, and intelligence. Based on all of that and the way the current roster is constructed and development of the future and the longevity, there are only 6 quarterbacks that I would want as the Patriots quarterback going forward. Those 6 players are as follows, no particular order: Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Trevor Lawrence, and the one that I reconsidered on because of you was Joe Burrow. So I said, okay, I'll throw Joe Burrow. Originally it was 5 because I like to just do a 5, an even 5 number. But I was like, all right, I'll throw Joe Burrow in that 6. And there's nobody else that I would, in this current position where the Patriots are, there's no other quarterback I would want. And I'm taking Tom Brady out of that picture just because of the age, and he's already been there. So it's not really an option, right? So obviously I would take Tom Brady in a heartbeat, but I'm throwing that out. Now, as a rookie, Mac Jones had 3,800 yards, a 67.6 completion percentage, 22 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. That equated to a 92.5 QB rating. Vic, can I ask you a question? Do you know how many other rookie quarterbacks had to have at least 3,800 yards and a at least 67% completion percentage? No, you don't know?
No, I don't know. I'm letting you cook. I was on mute.
Okay. The only other quarterback other than Mac Jones to have those statistics was Justin Herbert as a rookie. Now, the points I saw from Mac Jones in humongous games is incredible. There's the argument that he had a run game, which helps. Well, that also adds into the ammo that I need. The fact that he could put those numbers up with a running offense, so an offense that particularly runs, I think is really formidable and hard for a rookie quarterback, and he was still able to perform with kind of the limited availability he was given. He clearly has the arm to succeed. I'm not saying he has a killer arm, but I think he has the arm to succeed in the NFL. And to be honest, you don't need that killer arm. You don't need to throw for 80 yards down the field, right? That's always the biggest crook on him, is like, oh, he can't throw 90 yards down the field. Nobody cares. That's not really how the game goes. He has an arm to succeed, and he has an accurate arm, and I think that's both really important. You and I watched all those games last year together. We saw some throws that we were like, damn, we did not expect Mac Jones to make some of those throws, and they were nice sideline throws, back shoulder, all that stuff that, you know, when you see from a rookie quarterback, you get your eyes kind of like, oh shit, okay, I saw the same type of poise and the same type of accuracy from Justin Herbert. Again, not comparing them, not saying he's Justin Herbert, but just saying if we're going to see that from a guy like Justin Herbert, we should also give Mac Jones that same respect. I think he has the intelligence. He was able to learn the playbook fairly quickly, and that was not even knowing if he was going to be the week one starter. That this was something we didn't even know until maybe a week or two before the season started, if he was actually going to be the week one starter. He completed the entire offseason leading up to year one against Cam Newton. That's got to be a pain in the ass, right? I know Cam Newton didn't have a great year, but when you're still behind Cam Newton in practice, in training camp, you're behind a guy that, you know, won all those accolades, you know what I mean? Super, you know, MVP, all that stuff, that's still got to, you know, give you some sort of, you know, competition. And he didn't bow down to it. He actually stepped up, if anything. I think he stuck in, made throws under duress. We saw that in a lot of games. He took some huge hits, got back up, running to the sideline. How many times do we see him like take that huge hit, get up, and then just smile, like running to the sideline, just smiling? Yeah, he amped his team up in rallies. He tried his best to rally the team. Led some amazing drives in crunch time, especially against, you know, some of those NFC favorites in Tampa and Dallas. I mean, that Dallas game, we thought we were going to get smoked. We were in that game. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for our terrible defense, we'd probably win that game. So it wasn't entirely his fault.
Right.
And I think you and I mentioned it a lot last year, and I think even Anthony and TK were in those same exact comments that we were talking about, was Mac Jones' leash was too short. I was one of them.
Way too short.
You mentioned it. I think they played it safe all last season, and I was fine with that for a little bit, but I was like, come on, like, we need to show more. And the fact that he showed as much as he showed with a short leash, I think that says a lot about him as a player. I think there are a lot more mistakes to be made, and I'm going to be fine with that. I just really hope they stretch that leash a little bit more this year, and I think he's going to be a really good quarterback. I'm not going to, you know, put all my eggs in the basket and say he's going to be, you know, one of the best quarterbacks, but I think we're in a really good position at quarterback, and I think, you know, we should be lucky. I mean, yeah, it sucks we don't have some of these top tier guys, but I think Mac Jones has the skills to prove it, and I hope this year they really release those chains from him. They let him make those mistakes, and I'm really looking forward to a really fun season, honestly. Like, I mean, if we win 8-9 games, I'm fine with that as long as we see that growth. I just want to see a growth from Mac Jones, and then from there we know we can add even more talented pieces to this offense and maybe even start committing to the defense, right? So that's my takeaway on Mac Jones.
Absolutely. Well said, Sammy. Well, I think it was a successful rant that you went on there. God, I hope you're right, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I know you and everybody else were poo-pooing me on Twitter, but, you know, I wanted to stick with it.
It was just insanity. I think I had Trevor Lawrence in there, but not Lamar Jackson. It blew my mind. But yeah, sure.
Based on where the roster construction is, based on how the team runs, like, I don't think Lamar Jackson is conducive.
And to the people who said Mac Jones is Chad Pennington, I mean, I don't think he's that bad.
Chad Pennington wasn't even that bad, though, if you think about it.
Yeah, he wasn't. I
wasn't
mean,
his fault.
He got unseated by Mark Sanchez, but sure.
Well, because he was injured, dude. He had no
Sure,
O-line.
Yeah.
Anyway,
all right.
before we go, Vic, anything you want to close out with?
No, just it's good to be back. Good to be talking football again. To Kevin Durant stuff, I don't want Kevin Durant on the team. That's all I want to say about that.
Yeah, we're not talking Kevin Durant. No thanks.
Yeah, just no thanks. You keep your trash.
Yeah,
Sty.
keep that to yourself. But anyways, a couple quick shout-outs. Give a shout-out to Matt Linder. Thanks for coming. Kurt, TK, thank you so much for coming. Vic3, thanks for coming in to chat. We look forward to talking some more football with all you guys, some more fantasy football, and we get to, make fun of Vic's team. Actually, probably more so make fun of my team, especially my dynasty team. God, that needs some help. But yeah, just want to thank you all for tuning in to Townie Sports. Welcome all of you to our new home of sports. We're going to give you so much great content, especially in this coming NFL season. So thank you for joining us on this journey. We are live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I believe next week we should be coming back on. So we should be doing weekly again now that football is kind of back in swing. I think we got 4 weeks left till football season? Or is it 5?
Yeah, yep. 30 days.
So we got 4 more weeks, so we'll be able to give you that weekly content, and I can't wait. Guys, you got to keep tuning in. We're going to have crazy shows, especially last year. One of our big heaters hit last year in the NFL. Vic crushed it with the Cincinnati Bengals last year. I can't wait to see what we got for this year. I crushed it on the Red Sox last year. So thank you guys, as always, for joining. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Like the video.
Yes,
every one of your views, likes, and subscriptions helps us with the YouTube algorithm to reach other potential viewers and grow our channel to newer and greater heights. And we will most likely be doing another fantasy football league, I believe. So stay tuned for that as we have more information on that. Like and subscribe. Tell your neighbors, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworker, tell your boss who likes sports, even if you don't really like sports, to just, send them our way. We'll give them some good info. Lastly, don't forget to check out our Instagram page at Townie_sports and our TikTok page at Townie Sports Pod for all of the great mini clips as we go through the season. I mean, last year we were just full of heaters all year. Heaters. If you followed us, you probably made a lot of money. Yeah, you probably made
I had a great teaser streak going last year.
Tremendous teasers from Big Two. So we're going to be bringing that all back this year. So yeah, really great things coming for this NFL season. Again, thank you all for joining. I'm your host, Sammy, alongside the great Vic, and we are Townie Sports. See you guys next week.
Swag so mean, swagger on 100. We keep it real, dog. Nah, we ain't never fronted. My whole cap G-Clan stay blunted. My toes stay bruised cause I'm running to the money. Swag so mean, swagger on 100. We keep it real, dog. Nah, we ain't never fronted. My whole cap G-Clan stay blunted. My toes stay bruised cause I'm running to the money.